All right, this story starts with a curious granddaughter.
I'm Laurel Seymour. I'm a sixth-generation Austinite.
And Laurel's question is about one of those Austin generations.
I asked who was the first lady lifeguard in Austin, Texas.
Well, her question was a bit more specific than that.
Okay, it might have been, I know Binnie Seymour was the first lady lifeguard in Austin, Texas, but can you provide us some proof?
Binnie Seymour, that's Laurel's grandmother. And the family legend goes like this. Binnie was a teenager in the 1950s, and she worked summers in the locker room at Deep Eddy Pool. Then one day, Binnie's bosses gave her the chance at a promotion to lifeguard.
She got the job. That was it.
That's how Binnie, Laurel's grandmother, became the city's first female lifeguard. But is it true? Is Grandma Binnie Austin's first lady lifeguard? I had a question for Laurel.
Is Binnie to be believed? Does Binnie tend to make things up?
Binnie is definitely to be believed. She doesn't make things up, but she is a very good storyteller.
A very good storyteller. Okay, so my job is to find out, is Grandma Binnie a dirty liar? I started my interrogation of Binnie off slowly. Tell me about yourself.
I have 10 grandkids, and I have going on 15 great-grandchildren, so we're very blessed.
Very blessed. And very dishonest. Binnie grew up in Westlake, but as she tells it, she wasn't one of the fancy rich kids this part of town is now known for. Binnie was a country girl.
Actually, my dad, we were kind of river rats, so to speak. He caught minnows. He thought that he could make a living catching minnows. I've been on every creek and every river around Texas, I think.
But Binnie always stayed in shallow waters, and so as a kid, she never learned how to swim well. That changed in middle school when she met a boy named Billy.
Billy could swim like a fish, and he could dive. Oh, my goodness. He could do a 3.5 gainer and no problem. And I just watched him swim, and before long, I was swimming like a fish, too.
Binnie and Billy started dating. In high school, they got summer jobs in the locker room at Deep Eddy Pool. And then one day, like Laurel said, the men in charge approached Binnie and asked, "Do you want to be a lifeguard?"
If I could pass the test, then I could have the job.
For the test, Binnie had to rescue people. Her bosses coached football during the school year, so they recruited linebackers, wide receivers, tight ends. All the other football positions I had to Google for this story. And they told them to drown.
They weighed 250 pounds.
And how much did you weigh?
I weighed 112 pounds.
She was a minnow in a pool of whales.
I probably grabbed some of them by the head of the hair, but I pulled them in.
Binnie saved the sports boys and got the job.
That's how I became the first lady lifeguard in Austin, Texas.
Woo. This was the mid-1950s. Women couldn't own homes without a male signature. They couldn't get their own credit cards. So I'm inclined to believe Binnie was one of the first. But how does she know she was the first?
My boss told me, "You are the first lady lifeguard in Austin, Texas." And of course, he's passed away now.
How convenient. But before we try to confirm Binnie's tale, I need to tell you how this lifeguard story is also a love story. Binnie says she agreed to take the lifeguard test because of her boyfriend, Billy.
I just thought, oh, that'll be fun. Then Billy's a lifeguard, and then I can watch Billy. I didn't tell my boss that, but that's what I thought.
I thought this meant like she could watch the wind flow through Billy's hair while reciting romantic poetry to herself.
No, I watched him to make sure he didn't flirt with other girls.
Fair enough, Binnie. Let the alleged first lady lifeguard of Austin watch her man. I mean, she was only a teenager.
I mean, Do you remember that, Billy,
Yeah,
that they
I
were
think
both?
because they were both coaches.
That's
Rundell,
right.
He was a head football.
The voice you're hearing is Billy's. Binnie and Billy have been married for almost 70 years. Binnie got the job and the boy for life.
We lived happily ever after, for the most part.
I told Binnie I loved her story. Spending time with her and Billy, I wanted this story to be true.
As far as I know, no reporter interviewed you at the time. The two people who could verify this are dead. So it's going to be a very interesting journalistic endeavor for me.
Well, I definitely think so, because I wish a lot of the people were still alive.
As journalists, we get access to these fancy things called newspaper archives. So I went to the Statesman Archive and tried out some search terms. First Lady Lifeguard Austin, nada. Female Lifeguard Austin, nope. I limited my search to the time period around when Binnie says she was a lifeguard, 1940s through the 1960s. Closer, but still nothing. I thought, how would a newspaper reporter from the mid-1900s have written about this? Lady Bits Lifeguard Austin? No. Feminine Lifeguard Austin. Bam. City will employ women at swimming pools this summer. I zoomed in on the date. February 10th, 1943. Binnie Seymour was 3 years old. I am sorry to report that Binnie Seymour was not Austin's first female lifeguard. Now, I want to be clear, this article is the first documented mention of a female lifeguard in Austin I could find. It's possible there were lady lifeguards even earlier. But as far as I can tell, the title of lady lifeguard goes to two women, a woman named Jean Parker and another named Dorothy Curbo. Now, Jean, I'm sorry to say, has a very common name, and I could not find out much about her. But Dorothy Curbo, she has a unique last name, one that some longtime Austinites might recognize.
I'm Dave Curbo, native Austinite, born in Seton Hospital.
Dave ran the Catfish Parlor, a seafood restaurant in North Austin, for almost 50 years. But we're not here to talk about Dave. I wanted to hear about his mom. Dorothy Curbo grew up south of Austin in New Braunfels in the 1920s and 30s. And Dave says she was, to use Binnie's words, a river rat.
She had the Comal River, the Guadalupe River, the Lander Park, all those places to swim, and she loved to fish, but she mainly just swam.
By the 1940s, Dorothy was working a government job in Austin, but she was looking to make some extra cash.
It was during World War II, and all the military-age men were gone, and the city was having a hard time finding lifeguards.
Young men were leaving their family, friends, and yes, lifeguard stands around the nation. I found this article in the Austin American from March 1943. Allow me to present this dramatic reading.
Many of the old-timers that frequent Barton's will recall the good old days when the big husky lifeguards watched over the flock. However, such things are in the past for the duration, and beautiful girls will grace many of the lifeguard towers of the nation this season.
Dorothy was one of those beautiful girls.
She said, well, I think I could do that.
Just like Binnie, the man in charge of the pool said she had to take a test, but this time without line receivers, guard backers, and kicker boys.
He said, okay, let me see you swim across the pool and back. So she did, and he said, you're hired.
All right. Dave says his mom worked at West Enfield Pool during weekends and holidays. She did this for about 7 years, and then eventually she moved out to Wimberley.
So the years rolled by, and then she went to work for the post office. In 1972, she got made a postmaster.
Not just any postmaster. Dorothy was one of Wimberley's first female postmasters. She was quite a trailblazer. I reached one of Dorothy's nieces by phone. She called her Great Aunt Dot and says she was smart, sharp-tongued, and, quote, before her time. Here's how Dave put it.
She was very strong-willed, but loving mother, loved her family, loved her cats.
She apparently had 5 of them. Dave says Dorothy lived in a house with a pool and swam often. Austin's first documented lady lifeguard passed away in 2013. She was 94 years old. I broke the news to Binnie. You were not Austin's first lady lifeguard.
Really? Who is it?
I told her about Dorothy Curbo, how she was a lifeguard a decade before Binnie.
Well, that's interesting that Mrs. Curbo, I just wonder if she had a daughter named Karen Curbo. Went to Austin High. I don't.
She did, yeah, that is her daughter.
Are you serious?
It turns out Binnie went to school with the daughter of Austin's first lady lifeguard. They were in the same grade.
She was blonde-headed and she was just very sweet.
Binnie says they weren't best friends, but they were friendly. And yes, I asked, but apparently Karen never mentioned her mom was a lifeguard. There's one last thing about this story. When I talked to Binnie and Dave, I asked them, what did they make of the first? Whether you were told you were the first or you actually were. Wasn't it a big deal? Here's Dave, Dorothy's son.
No, not at all. She was just normal.
Binnie agreed.
It wasn't like I said, oh, I want to be the first lady lifeguard in Austin, Texas. No. I mean, it was no.
Binnie says she saw a task in front of her, all those drowning football players, and did it. She saved them.
I thought, I've got to do this, and I can do it, and so I did.
Dave told me this story about his mom, how in addition to lifeguarding and being a postmaster, she also started a pest control company that she owned for about a decade. I asked him how she got into that.
She told the story that she had the house sprayed and the guy came in. She watched him do it, and she said, I can do that. And she did.
I can do that. I love the simplicity of this. Like when you're a kid and you see an older kid, maybe your sibling, do a cool trick on their bike, and your first reaction is, hey, let me try. I bet I can do that too. And maybe you end up breaking a barrier you didn't even care about or didn't even know existed. The weight of what you did may only become clear decades later, when you tell your granddaughter you're pretty sure you were the first lady lifeguard in Austin. And even if you weren't, she sees how powerful that can be, and so do others. When all you wanted to do was prove to yourself you could pass a test, mostly so you could keep an eye on your teenage boyfriend. To honor Binnie, Dorothy, and Jean, we have asked some current lifeguards to come out on stage. Binnie, I know you're out there. If you wouldn't mind standing up. We have a lifeguard salute. Thank you.